We cannot hear you, Prabhuji. You can hear me, but we cannot hear you.
Hello. Aha. It should work now, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Krishna's
Hare
mercy.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hi, Bo. You can hear me better, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a good sound? It's a
Yes,
good quality
Prabhuji.
sound, right? Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah. Now for extra credit, what is this flag behind me? If you guess what this is, you get an automatic A on the whole course. Anybody
Actually,
guess?
2 angels are there,
Yes.
and I think in center there's a crown.
So this is the flag that was in France before the French flag today is this blue, white, and red. But this was the flag for centuries before, and it represents the French royalty, like the kings, the equivalent of the Rajas of Bharat, blessed by God. So it's like a Christian royal insignia, French Christian royal insignia. As I get older in life, I become more and more sort of inspired by my cultural roots and we don't want to get into geopolitics, but I don't know how much, to tell you the truth, I don't know how much Islam is compatible with Europe. I don't know how much Judaism is compatible with Europe, with Christian Europe. But Vaishnavism, Krishna Bhakti, I believe, is very much compatible with Christian Europe, and I think that's the only hope for the future. Anyway, let's do a little kirtan. It's 4:30. It's 8 p.m. your time. Everyone's muted, and I have my kartals. I'm not a. Yesterday where I was speaking, where it was yesterday? I was in Burger King I was in Burger King because I had to go buy some, so that's why I moved the camera guy. I didn't want you to see the hamburger sign behind me, but maybe some of you caught it. It was a quite inauspicious place to be. Let me get my kartals and then we'll start. I also wanted to show you an up close, this little frame here. I'll bring it closer to the camera. This is a piece of chadar, of cloth, that Lord Chaitanya himself wore. When I was in Vrindavan, actually when I was traveling with Indradyumna Swami some years back, maybe 10, 15 years ago, he had a piece of cloth from Lord Chaitanya, and I was like, oh my God, how did you get this? And he wouldn't tell me. If you've heard of Indradyumna Swami, you can look him up. He's a very famous ISKCON leader from America. And so finally he told me, well, it was given to me by Padmanabh Goswami. Padmanabh Goswami is one of the main acharyas of the Radharaman temple in Vrindavan. And so he gave me, I asked him, I begged him, can you also give me a piece of cloth of Lord Chaitanya? So he gave me this little piece, and then he certified it here. He said, like, I, Padmanabh Goswami, have gifted to Chandrasekhar Das this small piece of cloth inside the golden frame he held in my hand in this picture. This small piece of cloth was cut out from a larger piece of cloth which was given by the Mahant of the Gambhira temple in Jagannath Puri to my great-grandfather, the late Sarvabhauma Sri Madhusudan Goswami. This sacred cloth was handed down to me. It was worn personally by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself in Jagannath Puri. So somehow I got this mercy of this piece, and here it is. Look.
That's really great, Prabhuji. Ji, Prabhuji.
Yeah, it's a blessing. Okay, I'll put it back on my little altar, and then we'll start. All right. So everyone's muted. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Advaita.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So welcome once again to everybody. We'll start the other way around this time. From Sunil to Ritika to Damni to Jai Kumari, Beena Kumari, Priya, Komal and Rohit and Meena, Varsha, Tanya, Ishvar, Devika. We have Jahwanti. Is that how you say? Jaiwanti, Keshav, Aruna, Nimerta, Pinky, Sagarji, PLO, and then Ria, and Saweta, Kishori, Damni, Kajal, Lohan, or Kajal. And then on the first page, we have Shobha and Hitika, Roshni, Simal, and I guess, is that Krishna Priya under ISKCON Rohini Institute? No. Yes. And then Mehak and Bahwan. How do you say Bhawana? How do you say your name? Bhawana? Maybe she's not hearing me. Okay, Haripriya and Gungun. Gungun. Is that how you say it?
Gungun Prabhuji.
Gungun.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Gungun. Cool. Ishwar Ji and Prachi and Doshna and Jai Tulsi. So Jai Tulsi, you're initiated, right? Cool. Because it says Devi Dasi. So everybody else is not initiated, correct? Okay.
Prabhuji, two more are initiated, like Krishna Priya, Shri Radha Devi Dasi, and Hari Priya Radha Devi Dasi. They both are also initiated.
Okay. Nice. Of course, you can become pure devotees without ever taking initiation, at least that's what I believe, and I think it's substantiated in our Shastra. Some devotees say, no, you have to. Let me get my glasses are dirty. Some people say you need to take initiation in order to, get Krishna prema and stuff. And others say, no, you don't. Like, I don't know if you know Bhanu Swami. He's quite famous in India, in South India. Bhanu Maharaj, I recommend you listen to him. He's a wonderful sadhu. He really knows Shastra well. And he is of the opinion, quoting Shastra, that, while initiation is recommended, it's not mandatory. It's not necessary to gain, the full objective, the whole goal, the whole benefit of Krishna consciousness. There's even one quote he quotes Rupa Goswami, who says somewhere that initiation is really only for rich householders. Can you imagine? And some devotees say that, we place too much emphasis on Diksha in ISKCON and not enough on Shiksha. And anyway, but of course, initiation is also nice. So let us go. Somebody asked in the chat what page we're on. Page 10. Oops, I have my book over there, but I'll just read it online. Can someone remind us where on page 10 we are? Like starting with what paragraph?
There are 6 kinds of rasas.
There are 6 kinds of rasas. Okay, so I'll read it first. I might as well, okay? Oh, Kishori has a question.
No, Prabhuji.
Okay, well your hand is raised. So there are 6 kinds of rasas or tastes. And if one is agitated by any one of them, he becomes controlled by the urges of the tongue. So, the sweet and pungent and so on. There's 6 different tastes, we can say. Some persons are attracted to the eating of meat, fish, crabs, eggs, and other things produced by semen and blood and eaten in the form of dead bodies. That's one thing with Christians and Muslims and a lot of Hindus too. They just don't get it, that we should be vegetarian, that we shouldn't hurt animals, that, it's much better to kill only plants and then also, offer them to Krishna than to eat. Like, it's funny how, not funny, but it's like kind of gross, kind of crude how Prabhupada describes it, isn't it? Other things produced by semen and blood and eaten in the form of dead bodies. Others are attracted by eating vegetables, creepers, spinach, or milk products, but all for the satisfaction of the tongue's demands. So in other words, okay, you're vegetarian, you're vegan, but you're still just eating for your sense gratification. I think Prabhupada has said something like, so what? Pigeons are also vegetarian. Monkeys are also vegetarian. What's the big deal? Such eating for sense gratification, including the use of extra quantities of spices, like chili and tamarind, is to be given up by Krishna conscious persons. The use of pan, haritaki, betel nuts, various spices in use in pan making, tobacco, LSD. Do you know what LSD is, guys? No, Hitika doesn't know.
No.
Does anyone
No,
know what
Prabhuji.
LSD is? That's so funny. And Does anyone know what is LSD?
Prabhuji, it is kind of drugs, I think.
Yes, we don't know exactly what it is, but it is certain type of intoxication or drugs.
Yeah, it's a chemical drug, synthetic drug that was developed in the 1960s and was very, very popular in the hippie movement of the 1960s. Extremely intense drug that's very hallucinogenic, makes you have hallucinations, you know. And so remember the context here. Prabhupada is speaking in the context of of his this is 1969, 60, maybe 1970, 71. And remember, Prabhupada came just at that moment of this hippie. Okay, does anyone not know what a hippie is? Yes? No? Shobha, you don't know what a hippie is? Then 50% of your life is spoiled. No, I'm joking. You know that joke of that Prabhupada, you know that one, Jai Tulsi? The joke of Prabhupada with the 50% of your life is
Yes,
spoiled?
something like I have heard one joke like one man was traveling in boat, something like that, and
Yes,
he didn't know swimming, and the boatman said your 100% life is useless.
exactly. So you don't need to, don't worry. You're not losing anything if you don't know what the hippie is. But just historically speaking, in the mid 1960s in America, a small percentage of young adults, your age, maybe a little older, 18, 20, became sort of rebel. There was the Vietnam War. They were not in favor of the Vietnam War, so they basically dropped out of college, deserted the army, and many of them went to San Francisco and were kind of living in the streets and engaged in promiscuous sexual relationships. It was kind of like the so-called free love, experimentation with drugs, and all with, I guess, good intentions. At first, flower power. If you type hippie on Google and you type images, you'll see like these white, young, beautiful. I mean, whatever. Yeah, men and women with flowers in their hairs and peace signs and smoking marijuana and taking LSD, among other things. And that's the context in which Prabhupada came. That's so it's funny because he's talking about pan, haritaki, betel nuts, various spices used in pan making. This is only in India, and then he goes, okay, tobacco and then LSD, marijuana, opium, liquor, coffee, and tea is indulgent to fulfill illicit demands. If we can practice accepting only remnants of food offered to Krishna, it is possible to get free from Maya's victimization. Vegetables, grains, fruits, milk products, and water are proper foods to offer to the Lord, as Lord Krishna himself prescribes. What is the famous verse from Bhagavad Gita about offering food to Krishna?
Patram pushpam phalam toyam.
And what's the rest?
Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tatvam bhakta upaita. I forget the last line.
Ashnami prayatatmanaha. And what's the translation? What's the translation?
One who offers a leaf, fruits, and even water with love um, can get Krishna consciousness.
It's Krishna who's speaking. So when Krishna says, okay, if someone offers me with love these things, then what happens?
They will get my mercy.
Yeah, but specifically in the verse, what does Krishna say? If you offer me these things with love, then
Then
I will be pleased. I
I will be.
accept
Get bhakti
Yes.
of
Who said I will accept? Who said that?
Gungun.
Gungun. Exactly. I will accept. I will accept it. However, if one accepts prasadam only because of its palatable taste and thus eats too much, he also falls prey to trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. But again, remember, like, we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves. Prabhupada himself even said at the beginning of Krishna consciousness, you should take so much prasadam that you waddle, waddle away like a duck. So, breaking the four regulative principles, that's really bad. Overeating on a feast of prasadam, it's not a big deal, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us to avoid very palatable dishes even while eating prasadam. Now, remember here, Prabhupada is speaking as a sannyasi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also, most of his life, a sannyasi. And Prabhupada is going to quote a verse here from Chaitanya Charitamrita. You see, if we accept the invitation of a rich man with the idea of receiving palatable food, we are also trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 6.227, it is stated, Jivare lalase ye iti utidaya, shishno dhara parana Krishna nahi pai. That person who runs here and there seeking to gratify his palate and who is always attached to the desires of his stomach and genitals is unable to attain Krishna. So yes, we have to take prasadam. We shouldn't overeat. At the same time, most of you are ladies. The few men here you're not sannyasis. So this instruction that Mahaprabhu is saying here is directed actually to Raghunath Das Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita, who's a sannyasi. So sannyasi should be, I guess, more strict about not overeating and stuff. We're not supposed to take chocolate in Krishna consciousness, right? But there's a controversy. About that because Prabhupada, is known to have even given chocolate to devotees. Like, for example, here's a picture of Indradyumna Swami. Let me share it with you. How come I can't open the app here? Share. I'm trying to share the app of, let me try again. I remember I spoke to you about Indradyumna Swami at the very beginning. So he influenced me a lot in my life as well, because I spent a lot of time with him on his Polish tour. And here's one of my favorite pictures of him, actually. But how come I can't share it? What do you see? Do you see anything here that I'm sharing?
Yes, Prabhuji, a comprehensive study by Satya Rajdas.
Oh, okay. That's so strange. I'll try one more time. Anyway, you've heard of Indradyumna Swami, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes,
So he
Prabhuji.
has a funny story where, well, not a funny story, but the thing is, one time he was in Switzerland with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada gave him chocolate, like from his own hand. He gave chocolate to Indradyumna Swami. So imagine, your guru and not an ordinary guru like Prabhupada, the founder Acarya, he gives you chocolate, even if you are very favorable, to the GBC and so on, nothing can sort of override the fact that your own guru, gave you chocolate. So sometimes when he goes to some grihasta's home and they ask him, Maharaj, would you like some ice cream? And he says, yes. What flavors do you have? So what flavors would you like, Maharaj? So he'll say, do you have any, Jaya Tulsi's laughing, and Hitaki, you know the joke? He says, do you have any false carob? Carob is like the equivalent of chocolate that devotees supposedly can take. It's false chocolate. So he says, do you have any false carob? Anyway, okay, let's go back to our reading. Who wants to read next? Maybe it's okay. Doshna and Barka and Poonam. Poonam, why don't you read today? Because I don't think you've read yesterday. So, okay, we've got 4 or 5. So we'll start with. God, Zoom is so complicated. Shunil is here also. Okay, so we'll start with Poonam, and then, but then take your hand down. Like, stop raising your hand. Like, bring it down, so that after that we. So Poonam, you can take your hand down and unmute yourself and read, please. And you can read two. Yes, go ahead. We can't hear you. As stated.
As stated before, the tongue, belly, and genitals are all situated in a straight line and they fall in the same category. Lord Chaitanya has said, Bhala na khaiba, ara bhala na paribe. Do not dress luxuriously and do not eat delicious foodstuffs. Those who suffer from diseases of the stomach must be unable to control the urges of the belly, at least according to this analysis. When we desire to eat more than necessary, we automatically create many inconveniences in life. However, if we observe fasting days like Ekadashi and Janmashtami, we can restrain the demands of the belly. As far as the urges.
Okay. Well, wait. Let's keep it there. Very good. Thank you, Poonam. So this line, tongue, belly, genitals. So if we are able to control our tongue by only eating prasadam and talking ideally only about Krishna or things related to Krishna, then according to this analysis, then we control the belly, and then the genitals are also controlled. Who was next after Poonam?
Barka, I guess, or
okay. Go ahead.
Said, do not dress luxuriously and do not eat delicious foodstuffs. Yesterday you told that we can dress beautifully, like as Western dresses. We can wear them.
Yes.
So isn't it come into the category of Falgo Viragya?
To dress luxuriously, like here again, this verse again, do not dress luxuriously and do not eat delicious foodstuffs. Lord Chaitanya is speaking again to a sannyasi. So for a sannyasi to wear, expensive clothes, that's not good. But if you're a grihasta, I mean, do you think Draupadi, do you think she dressed like really poor, or do you think she dressed like a queen?
Queen.
Yeah. You think she had jewelry?
Yeah.
Did she have beautiful saris?
Yes.
Yeah, she was a kshatriya, she was a queen. Same thing with I mean, all the and not just kshatriyas, Brahmins, rich Vaishyas, Vaishnavis who were from the Vaishya, or even, the point is, it's okay to dress nicely and luxuriously if you're not a sannyasi. If you're a sannyasi, you've renounced the world. So you're supposed to live very simply. That's why sannyasis are criticized, even in ISKCON sometimes. Oh, they have a big apartment, or they have like that, things like that. But King Prataparudra, for example, he again, these kings, these Kshatriya Vaishnava kings and queens, you go to Rajasthan even today, and you'll see great, Vaishnava royal families. They dress great, but they're Vaishnavas. They're doing it for Krishna. And to dress luxuriously or very beautifully doesn't mean you dress in a sensual way that unnecessarily attracts the lusty glances of men. But it doesn't also mean that you have to dress like a poor, sweeper in the street. Jai Tulsi wanted to say something?
Yes, Prabhuji, I want to ask something here. Yes, as you mentioned about like sannyasi and grihastha, what about a brahmachari and a brahmacharini, like female uh, uh,
Yeah.
renunciants?
What
What?
about them?
Yes, can they dress like nicely and
Well,
uh,
if they're living in an ashram, the brahmacharini ashram or the brahmachari ashram, they should also dress simply. Sometimes I remember in Vrindavan there was some brahmachari who comes from a very rich, actually some Muslim family, in the Middle East somewhere, and he had like these gold rings, wearing saffron dhoti and stuff with these like big gold rings and gold watch. It's like, come on, man. Like, if you're gonna wear saffron, then be renounced, And I guess ladies, they don't wear saffron, but maybe they wear white, isn't it? So yeah, brahmachari or brahmacharini is similar to sannyasi. At least in our line, we don't give sannyas to women, but you can have very renounced women, but still, they're just officially or in terms of like an institutional designation, there is no sannyas for women. But it doesn't mean that a woman, if it's her karma or her will to shave her head, but you see them usually, you see a lot of them in Vrindavan, isn't it? Like either they're widows or they're just renunciants, devout. I have a French friend. I mean, we're not very close, but she's the head of the Vrindavan Institute of Higher Education in Vrindavan, ISKCON Vrindavan. I forgot what her name is, but she's always wearing white, and she covers her hair, but she's always shaved head, very renounced. But if you're living at home and stuff, and even if you're not married, but you're not living like in an ashram, like as a nun, basically, then you should dress normally. Nice, clean. Huh?
thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. The point is to live, is sattva guna again. If it's clean, then whether it's, very expensive and clean and modest or very simple and poor and clean, these are details. But the point is sattva. It should be clean, modest, like that. And then whether it's Western Simal or whether it's Pakistani or whether it's Indian or whether it's Australian or Chinese or Japanese, it doesn't matter. As long as it's modest and clean, because that's our principle, sattva guna. And sattva guna can be expressed in any clothes. I mean, any culture. Like some people say, I mean, since we speak about clothes and I like to talk about that, and Prabhupada's talking about, I mean, it's not off subject. Some devotees believe that, only saris and dhotis are sattvic clothes. And that's not true. And for two reasons. First of all, you see, at least the paintings of, for example, Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur, there was this prostitute, this hired prostitute who tried to, to trick him in the middle of the night. She was hired by this envious man to try to make Haridas fall down, right? And she was wearing a sari, you can imagine. But yet she was, I mean, I think Kaviraj Goswami says that, she was like the personification of Maya. And again, speaking of prostitution, there's prostitution in Bangladesh or in India, and most of the women are wearing saris. I mean, those prostitutes. So is the fact that they're wearing a prostitute, does that make that lifestyle less sinful or less lamentable? No. Similarly, they're butchers. There's butchers who kill even cows, who are wearing dhotis. So that's one thing. And then there's a conversation in Hawaii with Prabhupada, and where he's speaking about consciousness, and he's saying, like just like some of these men, they're dressing in the mode of goodness, but their consciousness is totally in the mode of ignorance. And he's speaking about, Americans. And in those days, no American, I mean, still today, nobody wears dhotis in America except Indian Hindus, basically, and a few white Hare Krishnas. So in those days when Prabhupada is saying, these men, they're dressing in moto goodness, but their consciousness is in tamaguna, that shows that for Prabhupada, it was possible to be dressed in Western clothes, but in sattvaguna, the clothes. But then, where is your consciousness? That's another question. So as long as it's clean, as long as it's modest and doesn't, attract unnecessary attention, then that's sattvaguna, and that's what Krishna wants from us in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, who was next? I forgot.
And Prabhuji, what is the reason behind shaved head?
My understanding is that the shaved head is, again, it's mostly for, it's cleanliness, but then again, women, they don't shave their head, right? So it's kind of contradictory. But, like, it's a sign of renunciation. It's a sign of simplicity. But my understanding is it's mostly for brahmacharis and sannyasis and maybe young Brahmins, young Brahmin boys, because you see in India some of even Grihastha Brahmins, they have a shaved head, some of them, but then some of them have long hair also. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, as Nimai Pandit, he came from a Brahmin family, but he's Krishna himself. Did he have a shaved head? Yes, but when? Barka said no, but he did. But after what? What very important event in his
After
life?
sannyas,
Exactly. After sannyas. When he was a grihastha, did he have shaved head? No, he had beautiful long hair. And you see many of our acharyas, Narottam Das Thakur, and or for example, Shamananda Pandit and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. You see the paintings of the time; they have long hair also. So, in my opinion, it is wrong preaching to tell men, grihastha men who are responsible, who are going to get married, or who are getting married, or who are married, and who therefore have a responsibility to compete in the world and make money to maintain their family and so on. It's actually very counterproductive to tell them, no, best you should have shaved head. In my opinion, that's actually nonsense preaching. It's dangerous preaching. It's falgu vairagya. It's false renunciation. If you're a householder, then you don't have to shave your head. Where's the proof? Proof is Lord Chaitanya himself. And if that's not enough proof for you, then sorry, we cannot talk anymore. Because if God's own example is not good enough for you, then what can we do? Nityananda Prabhu also, when he was Grihastha, he had long hair. Prabhupada, there's instructions by Prabhupada, but again, remember, in the 1970s, when Prabhupada was alive, all the devotees, first of all, most of them came from this hippie culture, where, there was long hair and also full of illicit sex and intoxication and degradation and living dirty lifestyles in the street and so on. So Prabhupada wanted, okay, clean yourself up here. And then everybody was living in temples also. There's very few householders like you, who are Vaishnavas, but who live at home. That almost didn't exist in those days. Every member of ISKCON, practically in the 1970s, and it continues, after Prabhupada's passing away, up to basically the late 1980s, at least I'm talking about Europe and America, every member of ISKCON was living in a temple. So, okay, if you're living in a temple, you're basically living like a brahmachari, if you're a man. So then, okay, shave your head. That's understandable. But when you're not living in a temple as a brahmachari, then you should grow your hair out. Like I have a friend, I won't mention his name, but he's in New York now, but for a long time he was the temple president of ISKCON Soho in London. So he's an American, blue-eyed, handsome white man, Grihastha, Radhanath Swami disciple, married to a British Indian girl. And all these years, when I was doing my master's at Oxford, I would go to London sometimes and I would see him, and I didn't want to tell him, but in my mind I was like, what are you doing? Like, you're married. Why are you dressing like a brahmachari? Just a white version of a brahmachari, like bleached. You put some saffron or orange or red cloth in bleach, and you take it out. It's white, right? But it's the same. So, like, why are you dressing like a bleached brahmachari? You're married. Why do you have a shaved head and a shikha? If you're married, then you're preaching to other married men in the society who are not Vaishnavas. And so if you have normal hair, like they have normal hair, they will listen to you more. Isn't that what counts ultimately? Is that you want them to hear you, not that they cannot even hear you because they think you look so strange with that strange little ponytail in the back, which, by the way, is not even a Vaishnava symbol. The shika, if you go to India today, you'll see that most men who have shika are not Vaishnavas. They're either Brahmins or some even other castes, some grandmother or grandfather died, so they shave their head and keep a shika for a few days, isn't it? It's not a Vaishnava thing that only Vaishnavas have, like tilak. Tilak is only this form of tilak, that's only Vaishnavas. Tulsi beads, that's only Vaishnava. So that we could say that is really a Vaishnava symbol. But a shika, that's not only Vaishnavas. Dhoti is not only Vaishnavas. Sari, I'm sorry. Most women who wear saris eat meat and are not Vishnu bhaktas. We have some questions. Bina Kumari, raise your hand, and two others, which I don't know. Bina
Prabhuji, I have a question. May
please.
I?
Who is speaking?
Jai Tulsi Devidasi.
Jai Tulsi.
Prabhuji, as you mentioned, like
And then
the
Sunil will ask Sunil after. Yes, go
okay.
ahead.
Yes, the most important thing is the a person should receive your message. So whether you are dressing like normally or whatever. Prabhuji, we have seen Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's example. He takes sannyas because he thought when I will take sannyas, people will naturally respect me and pay obeisances unto me, and they will listen me more. And
Mhm.
now you are saying that people who are like wearing Vaishnava attire or dhoti and kurta anything, you are saying that people won't listen them like if they are in that attire. So it's like
Well, mhm.
controversial.
Well, what context are we talking about? Geographical and also historical. Like in India today, in Hindu India, yes, a sannyasi, someone wearing saffron, people respect because there's that culture. But in the rest of the world, a Hindu saffron monk doesn't, like, people are not like trained. Oh, he's a sannyasi, we should respect him. It's not, that culture is not there. A. And B, let's not mix apples and oranges. I'm talking about grihastas. I'm not talking about sannyasis. I'm not saying that sannyasis should stop wearing saffron clothes. Although for special occasions they can and should. And here's a proof. Even Prabhupada told Bhaktiswarup Damodar Maharaj, Sripad Maharaj, Bhaktiswarup Damodar Maharaj, he passed away maybe 3-4 years ago. He was from Manipur, and he had a PhD in biomolecular science from University of California. He was one of the founders of the BI, the famous, Bhaktivedanta Institute, which preaches to scientists, isn't it? And if you Google, Bhaktiswarup Damodar Goswami ISKCON on Google image, you'll see many pictures of him. He's in a suit and tie. He's a sannyasi, but he's wearing suit and tie. Why? Because he's going to preach in a context, not a religious context of Hindu pious people who understand this is a sannyasi, which will offer respect to him, but in a context of modern Western scientists who will listen to him more if he's wearing suit and tie. And that's a sannyasi. That's a sannyasi. The grihasta by definition has not rejected the world. The grihasta is living in the world. There's a disciple of Prabhupada. His name is Garuda Prabhu. He's also one of my gurus. I'll show you a picture of him. Garuda Prabhu. He has about maybe 10 disciples, and wonderful, wonderful Vaishnava. He's a grihasta professor of religion at the University of Virginia. He has a PhD from University of Chicago and from Harvard, and his book on the Rasa Leela was published by Princeton University Press, and he has a shorter version of it now, which is being published by Oxford University Press. So he's he's invited at the Smithsonian Institute to speak on Krishna Bhakti every year. So highly, highly respected, wonderful Vaishnava. And he coined some beautiful terms, like, for example, that, our tradition is polymorphic monotheism, bimonotheism, polymorphic bimonotheism. And one thing he says, this notion of a world embracing Vaishnavism or Vaishnava and a world denying. You get the point, Jaya Tulsi, a world embracing Vaishnava and a world denying Vaishnava. So the world denying Vaishnava is the sannyasi. Prabhupada says in the first canto of the Bhagavatam that sannyasis are socially dead. That's the exact words that Prabhupada says. The sannyasi is socially dead. What does that mean? That means that he has written off all interaction with the material world. Of course, he's still in the world to preach and so on, but technically he's given up marriage life, he's given up economic development, and in that sense he's socially dead. The grihasta, on the other hand, is world embracing. The grihasta, or a woman who's married, they live in the world, they have children in the world, they have careers or jobs or businesses in the world, they pay taxes to the government in the world. So they are world embracing Vaishnavas. Of course, even a sannyasi like Prabhupada embraces the world by his love and also engages, typewriters and modern technology and cars and the printing press and so on, the Brihat Mridanga, to serve the mission. In terms of situation in society, though, it's clear the sannyasi is outside of society, right? But the grihasta is in the society. So if you are in the society, and if you live in a society where people, for example, are not accustomed at all to dhotis and saris, why should you alienate them even more by dressing in a way that they don't even know about? And that's why you have so many quotes by Prabhupada, for example, where he is even encouraging his Western disciples, grihastas, to dress like gentlemen and ladies. So let's not mix oranges and apples. I'm not talking about sannyasis, although there's even exceptions in rare cases, like I just mentioned with the BI and Prabhupada giving the green light and encouraging even. And then there's the grihastas who are world embracing. Is that clear?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Sure. Okay, who's next on the reading? Okay, I think Mehak, you raised your hand, and then, oh no, wasn't there a gentleman who, Shunil, why don't you read first, Shunil?
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, may
Hare
I?
Krishna. Come again?
May I read now?
Yes, please.
As far the urges of genitals are concerned, there are two, proper and improper, or legal and illicit sex. When a man properly mature, he can marry according to the rules and regulations of the Shastras and use his genitals for the begetting nice children. That is legal and religious. Otherwise, he may adopt many artificial means to satisfy the demands of the genitals, and he may not use any restraint when one indulges in illicit sex life is defined by the Shastras, either by thinking, planning, talking about the actually having sexual intercourse or by satisfying the genitals by artificial means. He is caught in clutches of Maya. These instructions apply not only to the householders but also Tyagis or those who are in the renounced order of life. In his book Prema Vivada, chapter 7, Sri Jagannatha Pandita says, Vairagi bhai gramya katha na suni be kane, gramya varta na kahi be yabe mili be ane, swapne o na kara, by stri sambhashana, re stri chadiya, by Ashya Chavana, यदि चाह प्रणय रखित गौरंगारे साने छोटा हरिदास कथा थाके ये न माने भला न कही बे अरा और भला न पाई बे हृदय ते राधा कृष्ण श्रद्धा सेवी बे. My dear brother, you are in the renounced order of the life and should not listen talk about ordinary worldly things, nor should you talk about worldly things. When you meet with others, do not think of women, even in dreams. You have accepted the renounced order of life with a vow of forbids you to associate with women. If you wish to associate with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you must always remember the incident of Chota Haridasa, and now he was rejected by the
And
Lord.
how, not how, and how.
Yes.
And how he was rejected by the
And
Lord.
how he was rejected by the Lord. Do not eat luxurious dishes or dress in fine garments, but always remain humble and serve their lordship Sri Sri Radha Krishna in your heart of hearts.
Very good. So for the grihasta, this is more an internal state of mind, because again, we have examples of very rich grihastas. In Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, you have King Prataparudra, you have Shivananda Sen, you have Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who wore very luxurious clothes, but they were grihastas, but their heart was 100% pure devotees of Krishna. And in the Mahabharata times, you have these great kshatriyas, like the Pandavas, for example. So this, remember, this isn't, so for the grihastas, it's more an internal state of consciousness. And for the sannyasi, like this verse says right here, my dear brother, you are in the renounced order of life. You're a sannyasi. You have, what is it here? You have accepted the renounced order of life. And so in that sense, there you have to really be strict. So important to remember the context, because the risk here is for a grihasta, and we've seen it in the ISKCON days of why. And this is my theory, but I think it's solid. Something that we don't say. It's like the elephant in the room, my friends. Out of all the disciples of Prabhupada and all their children, it's very sad that 90% of the children of Prabhupada's disciples did not stay in ISKCON. Did not even stay in Vaishnavism. There's a thing called attrition rate. I don't know if you know the word attrition rate. For example, when 100 people sign up for let's say the Pakistani army, after 6 months, maybe many of them will just leave. They'll desert the army because it's too difficult, even if they're not allowed or whatever. It's called attrition. So the attrition rate is how many people leave the army or leave a particular church or leave a particular organization after X amount of time. You follow, Sunil? Yeah. So in a similar way, you can calculate what is the attrition rate of children who are born in a particular religious organization. In other words, you take 1,000 children who are born in the Catholic Church, let's say in I don't know, in Germany, and when they are 20, and then you see those same children when they're 30 years old, how many of them are still in the Catholic Church and how many have left? You follow? So in ISKCON, it's very sad. The attrition rate for the first generation of children is, I mean, it's horrible to say, but it's in the high 90s. That means 9 out of 10 children born out of the first generation of Prabhupada disciples left the movement. Why is that? So you can say there's many factors. One factor, at least one, I'm not saying it's the only one, but one factor, in my opinion, is that unfortunately, a lot of parents were well-meaning, but they, again, this point of Falgu Vairagya, they were too much renounced of the world, too much acting like sannyasis when they were actually grihastas, when they actually had a duty to take care of their children, to make money for their children, to take care of the wife, and and so on. And so the children, after growing up in such austere situation, when they got 18 years old, they're like, okay, enough, I'm out. Good luck. I don't want this for myself now that I'm an adult. So why do I mention this? Because this verse, we have to remember, is directed towards a sannyasi. You are in the renounced order of life. You have accepted the renounced order of life. And so for those, sannyasis, yes, you should never eat luxurious food. You should not dress in fine garments, right? But Lord Chaitanya did not tell this to his grihasta disciples. Lord Chaitanya never told this to Pundarik Vidyanidhi, stop wearing those nice clothes. When Sanatan Goswami comes to see Lord Chaitanya and he has this very expensive chadar, and Lord Chaitanya looks at him and says, no, this is not good, because he's a sannyasi. But Lord Chaitanya never told his householders not to have children or not to dress nicely. But what we all share, whether we're women Vaishnavas or men Vaishnavas or sannyasi Vaishnavas or grihasta Vaishnavas, what we all share is the last instruction here. Always remain humble and serve their lordships in your heart of hearts. So that is the point. If in our heart of hearts we are servants of Radha Krishna, all we want to do is serve Radha Krishna and serve the servants of Radha Krishna and give pleasure to Radha Krishna, then everything else is secondary, isn't it? You agree, Sunil?
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, actually, I have a little question. Why do we grow our shikha? What is the purpose of that?
Again,
From laughter.
the shikha is what distinguishes the Mayavadi sannyasi from the Vaishnava sannyasi. Because when the Vaishnava, when you take sannyas, like, did Lord Chaitanya have a shikha when you took sannyas? Yes or no?
No, I think
No.
no.
Why? Because he took sannyas from a Mayavadi guru. Because, like Jai Tulsi was saying, in those days, the Mayavadi sannyas order was very respected. So Lord Chaitanya decided to take sannyas from a Mayavadi because he would have that honor, so that, like Mataji Jai Tulsi said, he could preach more effectively, by using the Mayavadi danda, so to speak, in Yukta Vairagya, in the service of Lord Chaitanya, of Krishna. So why do Grihastas wear a shikha? I have no idea, Baba. And I think it's a terrible idea, especially in the West. Especially in the West. It is only hurting our movement. Again, speaking as a white man, as a white Vaishnava, who lives in Europe, who knows American culture and European culture, where nobody in society has a shikha. Nobody. Except maybe some crazy alcoholic punk, punk weirdo in the street, who has a shikha. Like, sometimes you see these homeless guys, playing guitar or something, half drunk. And for a second you think, wait, is he a devotee? Because they have a shikha. And then you ask them, like, hey, are you a devotee? And they're like, what? What's a devotee? They don't even know. So in the Western culture, at least, I don't, India, maybe that's another thing. But again, even in India, not most Vaishnavas, most men who have shikha are not Vaishnavas. Historically, the shikha is just not a Vaishnava symbol. It's just something that Brahmins usually do. But you have all sorts of Brahmins who are not Vaishnavas, and we don't care about the non-Vaishnava Brahmins. So in at least European context and American context, if a white Grihasta Vaishnava, or black, or Latino, those smaller ethnic communities, but mostly it's whites, 65% whites, if they're married and they have children and they have a bald head and a shikha, why in the world would they do that? I have no idea. It is completely counterproductive, in my opinion. It's like trying to run a race, so like now, it was a Tokyo, you saw the Tokyo world, it wasn't the Olympics, but it was like the world championship of like racing, for example. I don't know if you saw on YouTube the highlights, Sunil, or do you only watch Krishna Katha on YouTube?
Yes, no, Prabhuji. I didn't got to your point.
Yeah. So it's a championship. So these guys, these highly professional, runners, right?
Yes.
They use the like, everything counts. So for example, the shoes they use are extra lightweight. So they can run just a little faster, isn't it? So imagine if you put, a huge piece of metal, of lead, in the shoes, and say, okay, now run the 100-meter dash. Why do you want to make your job harder? No. So in a similar way, if you're a grihasta, and as we cleared it up with Jai Tulsi, as Garuda Prabhu nicely explained, if you're a grihasta and therefore you are in the world, and therefore you want to, there's a thing called to build rapport. Rapport is a French word. Rapport means a relationship. In anything, whether you're doing business or whether you're teaching students or whether you're preaching, you want to develop a relationship with the person you're speaking to, so they can relate to you. Oh, you also like cricket? Oh yeah, me too. What's your favorite team? Whatever, it's Pakistan. Oh really? I love also the Pakistani cricket team. So the more, and I don't know, I love samosas. Really? Me too. I love samosas too. And oh no way, your parents met in I don't know, in Delhi. My parents also met in Delhi. Like, the more common things two people have, then the more it's easy for them to connect, isn't it? So in a similar way, the more similarities there are culturally between to people, the easier it is to preach to that other person. So sannyasi cannot completely do that. A sannyasi cannot, start wearing Western, whatever, even like white dhotis or Western clothes all day long because he's a sannyasi. But householders can. And therefore, why would you want to, in a context like America and France, that's what I'm speaking for and representing, where no man has a shika, nobody knows what a shika is, why would you want to look really weird and different by wearing a shika? Which is not even a Vaishnava symbol. You see, if you look really strange by wearing tulsi, somebody will say, what is this weird necklace on? Actually, tulsi looks cool. Nobody complains about tulsi. But if somebody says, what is this strange necklace? You can say, well, look, this is an exclusive symbol of the Vaishnavas. Nobody except the Vaishnavas wear tulsi. Then you're standing on solid ground, isn't it? Because even though you may look strange, you can say, look, I know it looks strange, but this is really an exclusively Vaishnava symbol. So that's why I like to wear it. Or tilak. Tilak is strange, but if somebody says, what is this tilak? You say, well, I'm a Vaishnava, I follow Vaishnavism, and this is the symbol that only Vaishnavas, even in the Hindu Sanatan Dharma world, only Vaishnavas wear. So I will stand for it. Okay, respect, But if, again, for example, in America, you're a grihasta and you're white, American, from American Christian parents, and you're wearing a dhoti, a white dhoti, somebody will say, why? Then what do you say? You say, well, because it's a Vaishnava dress? No, because if somebody knows anything about Indian culture, they'll say, oh, wait a second, this is not a Vaishnava dress. All sorts of Hindus wear dhotis. All sorts of Hindus, even who eat meat and so on, wear saris. My camera heated up. That's why it switched off. So now you see the top ceiling of, I'm actually in the attic of this house. Let me, but let's move on because we've been on this topic for a long time. I can speak about it for a long time. I think it's a very important topic because it's related to preaching, and preaching really is our most important factor. So but let's go on. Unless, I'm at your service. Does somebody else have another objection or question? Please feel free to ask. Anybody?
Oh, actually, I have a question,
No?
but it will
Okay,
waste
for
our
example,
time.
let's say you preach.
Most
Oh,
of them.
Sunil, you're muted. I don't hear you. We don't hear you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, am I audible?
Oh, go ahead. Can you say that again?
Yeah, Prabhu, I have to ask a little bit about more that, but it's not time to ask that because I'll waste time of rest people,
No,
which are.
I think ask. Go ahead, ask, because this is part of the. Oh, what is shika? Jatin, shika is the little ponytail. I call it a mouse tail, but some devotees get offended when I say that. Jai Tulsi is like, oh my god, I cannot believe you called it a mouse tail. I'm actually kind. Sometimes I call it a rat tail. But so it's the little ponytail that men have in general Hindu culture. It's not a Vaishnava symbol. So that's what a shika is. Ishvar is smiling, and Jatin also.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, but before someone else speaks, I think Shunil wanted to ask one more question. Is it,
Prabhu, I just
Shunil?
want to say, we said antenna. It's like signal catching.
That's what we hear in ISKCON, but where is the Shastra? I heard that also a million times, but then when we speak, we have to back it up with Shastra, isn't it? And that's the first thing that we're supposed to do. If we say something, then, like when you, Prabhus, will read the Sri Ishopanishad, in the introduction to the Sri Ishopanishad, it's a lecture that Prabhupada gives in London, and he mentions when somebody is saying something or having an argument, one gentleman will tell another argument, how you are saying this, where is it stated in the Vedas? And if it's stated in the Vedas, if it's stated in Shastra, then what you're saying is correct, right? So this thing of that, okay, Shika is like an antenna, first of all, with all due respect, it's such a stupid argument when you think about it, because we're not our bodies. How can a piece of hair be an antenna? An antenna for what? We're spirit souls. We are spirit souls. We gain transcendental knowledge through the agency of Paramatma, or through the sound, of Vaishnavas, hearing their sound. But how can a piece of hair be an antenna? Are you kidding me? And what if somebody is bald and he wants to grow shika, but he cannot grow shika? He has no antenna. He cannot become Krishna conscious. Jatin is smiling, but it's true. So from a logical point of view, this argument makes no sense. And most importantly, there is no shastra saying that the shika is an antenna. Where is stated in Bhagavatam that the shika is an antenna? Where is it stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita? Where is it stated in Mahabharata? Where is it stated in Ramayana? Where is it stated in any of the most important, Vaishnava texts? Nowhere. Sunil, huh? So that's my answer to you, G, Ishwar G. Sunil G, go ahead.
Prabhu, as you said that dhoti is not a symbol of Vaishnava, but it's a part of our culture. Like when we in temple, when we perform the Vyasa Puja of any guru, or any big event, actually many of the Vaishnavas says you should wear dhoti because it shows our culture. We are here to represent our
Yes
culture.
and no. What about, again, like, is Vaishnavism, is it, like, you're born in Pakistan, so you can identify with what I'm going to say because you were not born in India. So in a way, you cannot say, oh, it's part of my culture. Now, your culture is Pakistani culture in a way. I mean, Krishna consciousness is not an ethnic thing. It doesn't belong to Indians or to North Indian way of dressing. Krishna consciousness, Haridas Thakur. Okay, an even better example than Haridas Thakur is, and again, it's Muslims. It's very, very interesting. Have you heard of if you've read it in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Pathan Vaishnavas? Is anyone familiar with that pastime?
Yes.
Oh, so as apprentices, Mehak is asking whether shika is important for sannyasis. It's important for Vaishnava sannyasis, yes, because the Vaishnava sannyasis have a shika. And that, as I was saying, that's what distinguishes the Vaishnava sannyasi from the Mayavadi sannyasi. They're dressed in the same color, but the shika, and of course tilak and tulsi, is that's a Vaishnava sannyasi, because he has a shika. Yes. So for Vaishnava sannyasis, the shika is important. Yes. So the Pathan Vaishnavas, who I guess most of you don't know about, you've never read this pastime with the Pathan Vaishnavas?
No, Prabhuji.
Okay, so let me tell you, because it's very interesting. Because you see, now, if you go on Google, on internet today, and you type, okay, what is the religion of China, or what is the religion of Japan, or what are the different Christianities out there, or what are the different Islams out there, you get so much information. It's like a big marketplace. I mean, in very strict Muslim countries, it's hard to to convert to another religion. They'll kill you if you convert to another religion. And I think that's very sad. But in the rest of the world, if you want to, if you're born Shinto and you want to become a Hindu the next day, or you're born Christian, you want to become, whatever. I mean, not Jew, because Jews are mostly very racist, and they think, like we said the first day, you cannot convert to Judaism, or at least you can, but you can never become a priest. And, the Jewish soul is special, all that nonsense. But anyway, the point is there's a lot of fluidity nowadays, even to learn about other religions. Back in the time of Lord Chaitanya, there's no internet. There's no worldwide web. Like, people don't have knowledge about even, a few thousand kilometers away, what to speak of on the other side of the planet, isn't it? So we don't see so much interaction between Lord Chaitanya and members of other religions. But when there are such interactions, it's very interesting to study it carefully, because we live in a very, very, intermixing kind of culture in today's world. So the Pathan Vaishnavas, they're Muslim. They're mostly men, and they travel. They're itinerant men who travel on horses, and they're dressed in, Kaviraj Goswami says, this is Chaitanya Charitamrita, they're wearing big beards. As you know, in Pakistan, the Muslims, they wear big beards. And the jalabas, the jalaba? You guys all know what a jalaba is, isn't it? Shunil, you follow? Okay. And black jalabas, like you see today so much in Saudi Arabia or Pakistan. They meet Lord Chaitanya, okay? They get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. They become devotees of Krishna. Kaviraj Goswami says that once they became devotees, they became pure devotees of Chaitanya, of Krishna. And then what do they do after they become Vaishnavas? They continue traveling around India chanting Harinam of Krishna. Okay? Now, what is interesting is that nowhere it is stated that now that they became Vaishnavas, they had to shave their beards or they had to start wearing dhoti. They had to stop wearing their jalabas. So we can infer from that 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 external dress of theirs remained. But because that was their culture, their external. So we have to distinguish between external culture and theological principles and fundamental practice of sadhana bhakti. And I'm sorry, but wearing dhoti is not a principle of bhakti yoga. It's a principle of external Vedic, if you want to be generous, or we could say Indian culture. Someone will say, oh, no, it's not Indian, it's Vedic. Prabhupada talked about dhoti and kurta and sari as Indian dress many times. Now, are we going to say that, oh, Vaishnavism is for Indians only? Then all of you are disqualified. I'm disqualified because I'm born in America, you were born in Pakistan. Forget Krishna consciousness. So you see, Vaishnavism is like the one of the zeros. If you put the one of Krishna, you know, Prabhupada gave that analogy. You have the one of Krishna, and then if you have only zeros, it's just zero. And if you have, you know, 2 zeros and you put the one of Krishna before, it becomes 100. If you have 3 zeros, it's 1,000. If you have, you know, 4 zeros, it's 10,000, isn't it? So, okay, I'll get to you, Sunil, but just to finish my point. So that one of Krishna can be placed in front of American zeros, Pakistani zeros, Australian zeros, Peruvian zeros, New Zealand zeros, Chinese zeros, Japanese zeros, South Indian zeros, Bangladeshi zeros. You see what I mean? And in, I don't know, in South Africa, people don't wear dhoti and kurta. So they'll come maybe to celebrate their guru's Vyasa Puja by wearing very clean, modest South African dress only. Maybe with tilak and tulsi, because that's really a Vaishnava symbol. You see? That's the future. That's actually the Siddhanta, first of all. That's the Siddhanta. And that's the future of Krishna consciousness worldwide. There is no way in heaven or hell that Krishna consciousness will spread on this planet if we think that every South African, every Australian, every Ethiopian, every Afghanistani, every Chinese, every German, every French, every Swiss, every Italian, every Mexican, every Guatemalan will have to go to Loy Bazaar near Vrindavan and wear and buy a dhoti and kurta and sari. This will never happen. And it doesn't have to happen like that. It will happen when people remain in their culture, live in the mode of goodness, and add the one of Krishna to their life. That's how Mahaprabhu's movement will spread all over the world. You wanted to say something, Srinilji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Actually, my all doubts are clear. But we've been taught we've been taught here like Vaishnava. If you are following or if you Krishna consciousness, you should not grow your beard. You should not grow your mustaches.
Well, I think
Is
you
that
look
clear?
good. You look good in a beard. You have a small beard. You have a mustache. You look like a gentleman. Who told you you should? Who told you you should shave? You look nice. You look like a gentleman.
Yes, Prabhu. Some Vaishnava said that
Jatin also has a nice little beard. What's wrong with that?
Vaishnava said that you have to follow Prabhupada. Like Prabhupada has no beard, has no mustaches, he has no hair.
But Prabhupada was a sannyasi.
Yes, Prabhu. But my point of view is that we can follow Prabhupada, but we cannot imitate Prabhupada.
Also,
we
that's
can
another
see the
point.
condition.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's another. That's that's true. That's true. That's
Thank
true.
you.
That's a good point.
All doubts are cleared, Prabhu. Thank you.
Yeah, so if somebody tells you, "Oh, Prabhu, you should wear dhoti kurta if you want, great. But if you don't want, you can say, where is it stated?" You know. There's this really cool picture of Prabhupada when he's actually selling. It's an advertising for his pharmacy, and you see a picture of Prabhupada with mustache. When he's a grihasta, he has long hair and he has mustache. Prabhupada. And again, Mahaprabhu is ultimately, even Prabhupada. Prabhupada is the Senapati Bhakta. He's the greatest Vaishnava, we believe. But even Prabhupada would be angry if we tried to make his statements contradict Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu's example is supreme. Nobody can go over Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's God, right? So the example that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed as a grihasta is extremely significant. Somebody else had a question? Going once, going twice. Okay, well, let's read on. We spoke a long time on this, but it's good. It's good. It's Yukta Vairagya, and we should talk about these details because ultimately we're talking about this for what? Not for our sense gratification. We're talking about this because we want to help spread Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission in Pakistan. Especially in Pakistan. Let's talk Pakistan here. You guys have a duty now to somehow or other spread Krishna consciousness in Pakistan. Now, Pakistanis, they don't dress like Hindus, isn't it? Right? So you think it's smart to start telling Pakistanis that, hey, not only should you accept that, Varahadev is God. I mean, that's a tough one, isn't it? The pig, the boar avatar in a Muslim country where, pig is haram. That's really hard. That's a big hurdle. Oh, that's a tough one. But, okay, this is our philosophy. So not only do you have to start believing these things that are difficult to believe, and that contradict Islam in many ways. Muhammad is not the final prophet. God has a form. He plays the flute. And so on. All these things. And on top of that, you have to now tell him that. But not only that, but you have to stop wearing your jalaba. You have to start having a little ponytail in the back. You'll never get Pakistanis to join to become devotees. Never. It's already super hard. But they will never happen if on top of that you add these extra cultural things, which are not necessary. On the contrary, if I was in Pakistan preaching, I would say, listen, guys, like your culture, just, stop eating meat, stop having illicit sex, stop gambling, stop, intoxication. Everything else that you're doing culturally, keep doing it. No problem. The clothes you wear, the style of food, whatever. It's your culture. It's your life. Go ahead. Just put the one of Krishna in your life. And that one of Krishna does not include starting dressing like someone from North India or some Hindu from Bangladesh. No. It means chanting the Maha Mantra. O Radha, O Krishna, please engage me in your service. That's it. Now, Jatin is asking, so what is the purpose of tilak and tulsi? At least Tulsi and Tilak are what we can say exclusively Vaishnava symbols. What are the purpose of them? To distinguish us maybe from other traditions. Like, let's say in Hindu India, everybody has something on their forehead, isn't it? So, the Shiva worshippers, they have three lines, isn't it? The three horizontal lines of ash. So when you see someone from far away, he has three lines. Oh, that's of Shaivite, isn't it? You see someone from far away, he has two lines like this in 45-degree angle. Oh, that's a Sri Vaishnava. They have two lines completely vertical. Oh, that's a Gaudiya Vaishnava. He has Rudraksha beads. Oh, she's a Shaivite. She has Tulsi beads. Oh, she's a Vishnu Bhakta. So it's an identifier that really sort of visual, gives us a visual representation of our brand, so to speak. It's our branding, it's the branding of the Vaishnava, just like the Nike sign, is like that that check mark, and Adidas has its sign, and Toyota has its sign, and and so on. Mercedes has its own sign, Maruti, like a logo. So in a similar way, the Vaishnava logo is Tilak and Tulsi. And Rupa Goswami mentions this actually in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So those are important, symbols that should not be rejected, because, as I said, they are worn only by Vaishnavas. Shobha, you raised your hand.
Why we apply tilak on this that kantha?
I think I don't know how many of us do it. I confess I only put it on my forehead. I don't do it on the 12 parts of the body. Om Narayana, Om Vishnave Namaha. There's like this mantras, and you chant the name of Vishnu everywhere. I'm just too lazy to do this, and I'm chanting Hare Krishna already, so I feel I'm getting Radha Krishna's protection. I don't need to do extra Vishnu protection on my body. But it's nice to do that, but I don't think you will be disqualified from getting Krishna Prema, especially if you're already chanting Hare Krishna, which is the most powerful, the most blessing. Because the way I see tilak, it's for others. Tilak is for others to see. So they don't see, they don't see your tilak that you put here or that you put here or here, Anybody else?
Okay.
Okay, so if there's nobody else, we'll go back to Rohini Institute, Krishna Priya, Devi Dasi.
Unmute.
Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I just have a confusion. As you mentioned that tilak is not for us, it is for others. But at the same time, we see that when Nectar of Devotion also mentioned that it is a one of the limb of bhakti.
Yes.
And that limb is for us, and it is
True.
not for others.
True.
So how can we say this statement?
That is for others?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
So
maybe
isn't it contradictory?
Yeah, in a way it is. I stand corrected. It's for us. Yes. Correct.
Okay.
But it's also for others. Because they see you with tilak. So how can it only be for us?
Yes.
Unless you just put tilak at home. And then if you're going to put tilak and do puja, for example, will Krishna be more happy if you have tilak on your forehead? Maybe. You could argue that. I mean, he'll look at your heart more than what you have on your forehead. So if you're alone and you're doing puja, okay. I mean, will the holy name, who is none different from Krishna, be more happy with you if you have tilak on? I personally don't know. I'm not Krishna. Who knows? Okay, but we could argue that yes, it's mentioned as a limb of devotional service. It's not mentioned as the top. Like you mentioned Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. There's like 4 very important ones, then like 11 really important ones, and then like another list of like 25 other ones. Like a total of whatever 50 or 60. So tilak and tulsi appear all the way like towards the end of the list. It's not the very first most important. It's not even the second most important batch. It's like the third batch. So that's also an important point to remember. Rupa Goswami does not mention them as like really important. It's much less important than Shravanam Kirtanam. Much less important. So, okay, it's for ourselves with Krishna, granted. But as soon as you walk outside, your body language is preaching with a huge speakerphone with what you have on your forehead. So obviously that is also for others. So we could say it's both.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Pleasure, at your service. Mehak said, I've heard that tilak can purify our mind. How does tilak purify our mind? Well, there is a mention that when people see tilak, it reminds them of Vishnu. Now, this is an interesting question. Does it remind people of Vishnu or Krishna because they live in a country where for centuries Vaishnavas have been wearing tilak, and therefore there's this common understanding in society that, the tilak means Vaishnava, which means Vishnu, and therefore, boom, you remember Vishnu? Or is there some sort of subliminal subliminal magic effect that when someone who knows nothing about Sanatan Dharma sees two marking on the forehead, somehow they'll think of Krishna. I personally doubt it. I doubt it. Don't get me wrong. I like to wear tilak sometimes in the West, even when I'm not preaching. When I go to sanghas, I like to wear tilak. But if I'm walking in the street of Paris, for example, and some black guy from Paris or some white lady from Paris who has no idea whatsoever of, Sanatan Dharma and what is the difference between Shaivism and Vaishnavism, and sees me walking with two marks like this and a yellow mark, are they getting some benefit? Just from the mark, maybe they'll get benefit because they come close to a Vaishnava or they hear me say Hare Krishna, fine, maybe. That's, if I'm a Vaishnava at all. But just visually, are they getting some sort of Agyata Sukriti? You know what is Agyata Sukriti, right? Agyata means unknown. Like if you give prasadam to people and they don't know that it's prasadam, still they get benefit, isn't it? It's agyana. Agyana means knowledge. Agyan means unknowledge. So unconsciously getting benefit, isn't it? That's what we say if you chant Hare Krishna in the street. Like, the Muslim who said haram, haram when he was pierced by the bull's horn, isn't it? And then he got mukti because he said the name of Ram. So that's Agyata Sukriti. So does someone in New York City who has no knowledge of Vaishnavism, does he or she get some sort of benefit, some sort of Krishna, points by seeing just these two marks and the nose? I doubt it, maybe, but then that means that this mark, Mehak, has some sort of mystical Shakti in it itself, and just that symbol itself, purifies your mind. I'm not sure. I think it's in the context, again, of a country where for 500 years, people know, these people who wear tilak, everybody else knows, that's a Vaishnava. And your mother knows this, and your father knows this, and their father and mother know this, and their father. And so for generations, everybody knows this mark means Vaishnava, means Vishnu. And so you see someone like that, that reminds you of Krishna. And if you remember Krishna, you're purifying your mind. That makes more sense to me. But I don't know what is the definitive answer. Damni.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, there was mention of Chota Haridas. So who's Chota Haridas?
So
I
Chota
have heard about Haridas Thakur, but didn't hear about Chota Haridas.
So Chota Haridas is mentioned, if I remember correctly. He's an associate of Lord Chaitanya, and he was actually punished by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because this was very, we could say, innocent, but it just shows how much Mahaprabhu as a sannyasi was so strict in terms of associating with women. Chota Haridas, I don't remember exactly the story, but I understand the principle. He sort of became friendly with like a widowed lady. I think she was a young widow and she was a little bit beautiful, and he would go and beg alms, and somehow or other he just maybe said hello to her, something like that, just like, in today's standards, completely innocent, isn't it? But if at all there was maybe, a micro milligram of a shadow of sense gratification, Mahaprabhu picked up on it and punished him, banished him. Correct me if I'm wrong. Those of you who know Chaitanya Charitamrita, didn't Chota Haridas then leave his body? And then he appeared to Mahaprabhu.
Prabhu, he committed suicide.
He committed suicide, just see. And then he appeared to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in sort of a dream and singing Harinam. And that's why there was this very famous sannyasi in ISKCON. His name was oh my God, I can't remember. I can't believe I forget, because he's very important in the history of ISKCON. He was a great kirtaniya. What was his name? Oh my God. Yes. Who said Vishnu Jan? Who said that?
Jayatulsi Devidas.
Yes, exactly. So Vishnu Jan Swami, you can look him up on Google. He was part of a famous rock band before. So he had this beautiful voice, and like he sang like a Gandharva, and he would tape up his fingers with tape because his fingers bled so much from playing 9 hours, 8 hours of mridanga per day, every day, in Harinam. And so he took sannyas and he made many devotees. He was very charismatic. People, devotees loved his kirtans. And then somehow we don't know if he actually had illicit sex or was it something very extremely light, like in the case of Chota Haridas. But the point is, at one point, he had something happened with a woman. And on a morning walk, he asked Prabhupada, he walked up to Prabhupada and he said, Prabhupada, what happens if a sannyasi falls down and has, fall down with a woman? And Prabhupada said he should commit suicide. But wait, so when he heard this, from what I heard, when he heard this, Vishnu Swami stopped in his tracks. And Prabhupada continued walking, not knowing that Vishnu had stopped. And then Prabhupada added, but in Kali Yuga, this is not necessary. You just chant Hare Krishna. But Vishnu didn't hear that. Vishnu disappeared. Vishnu Swami disappeared. We never recovered his body. But some fishermen in South India gave the testimony that some white, tall sannyasi, I mean, how many of them were there in 1970s, paid them to go in the Ganga and then he drowned himself in the Ganga with some weight. So there's a similar sort of story. This is not to say that it was a good thing he did that, because when they told Prabhupada said this was unnecessary. But just to answer your question, whoever asked, I forgot your name, I'm sorry. That's the story of Chota Haridas. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very strict with his sannyasis. Like, okay, if you're a sannyasi, then no nonsense. For you as a sannyasi, you have no connection with women at all, because you're a sannyasi, not because women are bad, but because you're a sannyasi. And if you mess with that rule, then I don't want to see you. I reject you. Get out of my association. Anyone else? Oh, we have 28 minutes. Let's read on. Who was next? Okay, Jai Tulsi, you have another question?
No, may I read?
Yes.
Okay.
And then Ishwarji, you can read after that. And Mehak, you read today, or is that a question you have, Mehak?
No, Prabhuji, I don't have any questions.
And did you read already today? I think?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay, then Jai Tulsi can read one paragraph, and then Mehak can read second, and then Ishwar can read third. And anyone have a question here? Kishori and Jatin, you have your hand raised. I don't know if that's to read or just a question.
Read,
Kishori wants to read. Okay, well, you read after you'll read 4, okay? Number 4 in line. So go ahead, Jai Tulsi.
Okay. The conclusion is that one who can control these 6 items, speech, mind, anger, tongue, belly, and genitals, is to be called a Swami or Goswami. Swami means master, and Goswami means master of the go or senses. When one accepts the renounced order of life, he automatically assumes the title of Swami. This does not mean that he is the master of his family, community, or society. He must be master of his senses. Unless one is master of his senses, he should not be called Goswami, but Godasa, servant of the senses. Following in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavana, all Swamis and Goswamis should fully engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As opposed to this, the Godasas engaged in the service of the senses or in the service of the material world. They have no other engagement. Prahlad Maharaj has further described the Godasa as Adanta Go, which refers to one whose senses are not controlled. And Adanta Go cannot become a servant of Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, Text 30, Prahlad Maharaj has said, Matirne Krishne paratah svato va mitho vipadyate grahavritanam Adanta Gobir Vishyatam Tamisram Punah Punarshchar Charvara charvananam. For those who have decided to continue their existence in this material world for the gratification of the senses, there is no chance of becoming Krishna conscious. Not by personal endeavor, by instruction from others, or by joint conferences. They are dragged by the unbridled senses into the darkest region of ignorance, and thus they madly engage in what is called chewing the chewed.
Thank you. Can anyone explain this analogy of chewing the chewed? What does that mean? Somebody maybe who hasn't spoken yet. Hmm? Oh, let me turn on my camera, but I'm still hearing you. Anybody?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, is that Simal speaking?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I don't know the exact meaning, but maybe something which is already chewed, and we are finding happiness in again the chewing the same thing,
Yes.
again doing the same activity.
Very good. We have the analogy, I think, of sugar cane. You know, have you chewed sugar cane before?
Yes.
So after you've sucked the juice out, it's just dry fiber.
Yeah.
Or chewing gum, to use a more modern analogy. You know, you bite some chewing gum, you chew it, you get all the juice out, and then you spit it out, and you're like, you know what? Maybe there's some more juice in there. You pick it up and you chew it again, you know. Nah, and you throw it away, and then again, well, maybe I didn't chew it well enough, you know, and then so chewing the chewed. So that's what I mean, this verse, I mean, I don't know if any of you were looking at me when you were reading it, but it's like this verse is so powerful. This verse is powerful. You can hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. So, you know, we should not chew the chewed, you know, because that's unfortunately what conditioned souls do, you know.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Can we add this? Can we add this to like chewing the chewed, something like getting into sense gratification, material involving into materialistic lifestyle? What the it is a kind of broader perspective. What the previous people have done, or what is being in a cyclical form. So is that okay?
Can you say that again?
Basically, chewing the chewed, I was considering it in a broader perspective, something to basically getting our sense gratification or getting into materialistic things, as our ancestors or as the people who have done that thing already, we are also getting involved in that thing. Is considered chewing the chewed, and if
Like
we are
what?
getting out of, like Prabhuji, considering other people or our ancestors or the layman, the people, they come to life, they have a family, they earn money, they made all the basic lifestyle
Not, I mean,
cycle.
you could say in a way, you know, from the perspective of a sannyasi, then yes, you know, family life is useless, you know. From a grihasta's point of view, I would say it's more, you know, breaking the four regulative principles. Eating meat, having illicit sex, gambling and intoxication. Those things, and you know, over endeavoring, for example, like not endeavoring to make money. If you're a grihasta, you have to actually. That's your Krishna conscious duty. Over endeavoring to the point where you lose your sadhana, then yeah, that would be, you know, over endeavoring, and in that sense, it could be chewing the chewed. But chewing the chewed really does apply to like gross sense gratification.
That's what I was that was my argument, j- to get our sense gratification,
Yeah.
materialistic things or
Yes. Well, look, I mean, the verse
benefits.
is pretty clear here. It says, griha vratanam, and go means the senses. So it's really like, okay, it's not it's not a thing against grihasta. It's not a grihasta ashram bashing verse, although it says griha vratanam. You have the grihasta and you have the grihamedi. What's the difference between the grihasta and the grihamedi? Anyone who hasn't spoken today would like to tell us, including Jatinji, the difference between the um, grihasta and grihamedhi? Krishna
Hi,
Priya
Vishwa.
is ready. Okay, go ahead, Krishna Priya. You answered first.
Krishna Prabhuji, Krista is the one who, like, they engages in the service of Krishna, the whole family, and but the Grahamedi is one who's only engages in his or his family sense gratification and is not thinking about the process of spiritual realization.
Exactly. Very well said. So that's the kind of griha person that this verse talking about. This griha vratanam, a vrata. So it's like you make a vow for a grihasta life, but it's not criticizing, again, having children and having a nice husband and having a nice wife and living one's life in Krishna consciousness. That's not what this verse is criticizing. This verse is criticizing what Krishna Priya described nicely, and that is the grihamedhi, which is a householder who only thinks of sense gratification and the sense gratification of his wife or husband and children. Material, only material pleasure, for me, for my husband or for my wife, and for my children. And to hell with the rest of the world. That's what's being criticized here. And it revolves around four things, my friends: illicit sex, gambling, meat eating, and intoxication. And illicit sex is what is criticized the most in the Shastra.
And Prabhuji, how it is compared to Krista?
The grihasta is Krishna conscious, and the husband and wife, they're living their life, with love for each other, of course, and love for their children and so on. At the same time, Krishna is in the center. So they're eating prasadam, for example. They're not just eating junk food and watching, some unimportant cricket game. If it's a world final, maybe even a Vaishnava will do it. But you know what I mean? They're not just like completely mundane, just eating karmi food or non-veg and not having any type of spirituality, no sadhana, no altar, no prayer, no gratitude. Even Christians, like before they eat, traditionally, not anymore, but they hold hands and they pray, "Our Lord, thank you for this, this dinner, in the name of Jesus, amen." And then everybody eats, at least there's a minimum sense of gratitude to God for the food that is given to us. So that is, what we mean kind of by a grihasta. Mm. Somebody asked, and we don't have the name. It says, "What is the actual meaning of ISKCON standard?" Who asked this question? I'll ask one more time. Somebody asked in the chat at 5:53 French time, "What is the actual meaning of ISKCON standard?" Okay, doesn't matter. Then I'll briefly, the meaning of ISKCON standard means is the standard that is set up by Prabhupada, by the founder of ISKCON, you know. Unfortunately, we live in, we're in the material world, so somebody will say, well, this is the standard, and somebody will say, no, that's the standard, and there's argument as to what is the standard, But just that, welcome to the material world. That happens everywhere. Discussing, fighting even about Siddhanta. What is the Siddhanta? So that's just how things roll in the material world. There'll always be differences of opinion, Page and next. Kishori, you asked page and text. Oh, so Kishori Laka, you just came and you're asking for the page. We just finished actually the first verse. And so we might as well, we have 15 minutes more. Let's just, somebody is saying something? Prem, you just came. Welcome. You're welcome with your beard. Nobody here is going to criticize you for having a beard because you're not a sannyasi. So you are in a safe space for Vaishnavas with beards. Rest assured.
They do not know the context actually. They are just too innocent.
No, but before you came, Bimal Prasad Prabhu, we had a long discussion about, how some leaders are telling some of the Prabhus that they should shave their beard, they should not have mustache, and we should follow Prabhupada's standard. And okay, to be fair, there is one Achilles heel statement. Prabhupada at one point was asked that question about his picture with the mustache, and Prabhupada did say, "I was not initiated then." So I mean, we have to be honest, even in our, we sometimes we wish Prabhupada didn't say that, but he did say that I was not initiated yet. But I think that even if Prabhupada said that, and he did, I don't think that is enough weight to counterbalance our whole history of so many Vaishnavas who had beard. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had beard. I mean, so many Vaishnavas had beards. So we cannot be. I don't know if you know, there's this thing called the Ritviks. Oh, somebody can mute himself. There's a Ritvik philosophy. Maybe if you don't know, but some devotees believe that there's only Prabhupada can give initiation and so on. They're called Ritviks. And we who don't accept Ritvik philosophy, we criticize the Ritvik devotees for isolating Prabhupada, a few things that Prabhupada says, and making a whole theology out of it. So these are called, kind of sort of theological Ritviks. But we can also be historical Ritviks. Bimal Prasad Prabhu, I thought of that sometimes. And I never really shared it with anyone. But we can be historical Ritviks where we look, for example, at one thing that Prabhupada said one time. Oh, I had a mustache, but I was not initiated yet. And then we completely make abstraction of centuries of almost an uncalculable number of great Vaishnavas who had beards, for example, even sannyasis, what to speak of grihastas, So in that sense, that's a cultural Ritvik.
All I can say is that beard is not a nest inside which the sparrow of Krishna consciousness reside. It's like beard or no beard. It's like
just keep your beard clean. That's all. Like if you have a beard, I would say no problem. Just keep it clean, and that's it. Like for example, there's some kirtan melas, and devotees who have beards are forbidden. They're great kirtaniyas, very wonderful Vaishnava singers, and because they have a beard, they're not allowed to lead kirtan. In my opinion, that's horrible. That's horrible. It's horrible. It's going exactly against this verse that we'll see, verse number 4, seeing a Vaishnava from an external point of view,
I mean, these things are same, like there's all this cloth controversy, which you generally always point out and highlight and defend. It's the same mindset. Like there may be some growth in Vaishnavism, but the Vaishnavism is not like, muffled by clothes. They're trying to muffle Vaishnavism by clothes, by beards. It's very unfortunate. It's just the new fight. And I mean, it's like the neophyte mentality that has completely gone off the hook. And, that's how it is. It's having a free ride. It's like just this Vaishnavism. some people think that they have copyrighted Vaishnavism the way they think it is to be. Saying for, that's what it is. It's just that thing. And like they don't have anything better to do, then they won't have this cloth issues and find something else. That's what my definition of neophyte is. My definition of neophyte is fight, neophyte.
Side fight.
Fight, yeah. Fight,
Neophyte.
fight. Yes. It's just don't have anything better to do, so do these things.
You Prabhus, you should, your new devotees, you have to get in the habit of, getting to know Prabhupada very well, getting to know Prabhupada's standards, his teachings, and so on, but always in the light of what Shastra and history of Vaishnavism say. Prabhupada always say, I am a bona fide spiritual master because I repeat what Shastra says. So you have to always see, okay, Prabhupada is saying this. Where is that stated in Shastra? And Prabhupada is always quoting Shastra. I mean, sometimes he'll also say, I love strawberries, or, Hawaii reminds me of Calcutta, or there is no happiness in the material world, but if there's any happiness, it's in America. Sometimes, he'll say things that he did say that one time, there's that story that I get.
That's a spirited statement. That's just a spirited statement.
Yes, exactly. A spirited statement. So don't get in the bad habit of isolating things that Prabhupada may have said about a particular topic and forgetting to go out and look at the greater historical context and the greater Shastric context. What are other things that Prabhupada said on the same topic? What does Shastra, what does the Bhagavatam say or not say about this particular topic? How has Vaishnavas lived this topic for centuries? Do we have any examples? That's important. In this way, then you're an intelligent Vaishnava or a Vaishnavi, because you're how do you say, you're wholesome, you're well-rounded, not imbalanced. Prabhus, let's go to one verse. Let's start verse number 2. Oh, someone had a question. Maybe we'll go to number 2 next time. Raki, you have a question? Maybe.
Prabhuji, in this text, as we have, it's about control of your senses, like belly, and about your food, and by your tongue, how about your speaking, and all these things. So in our grist life, okay, we don't choose life what the way we want to live. Okay, in your West culture, it's maybe like we have heard that it's easy to choose your life the way you want to live.
I don't
But
understand.
Here, it's not.
It's easier. Your microphone is a little difficult to hear.
Is it okay now?
Much better.
Okay, Prabhuji, as you're in West culture, we have heard that it is easy to live the life by the way you want to live. But in this our West Asian countries, especially if I'm asking about Pakistan, it's like a difficult. So in this Grasthashram, as the life we are living, and as we have in this text to control our all the senses in Krishna consciousness and engage your senses in Krishna consciousness. So it's like difficult to engage ourselves because we are just, if we chant, just it takes 2 hours to chant, okay? And if we are reading Bhagavad Gita, 15 to maybe 30 minutes, okay? And somehow it continues in the spiritual life, we say it takes maybe 3 to 4 hours. But what about the other time we are engaged in our activities of Grest ashram? So it is difficult, as we say that it is mind is very weak, so it is easy to drag in Maya. As we have some examples that you have given, that devotees are really, associate with Srila Prabhupada, but they fall down. Some of them, or maybe 1 or 2, I don't know. So and they are associated with that personality, super personality. So in our life, we are very weak. So how to control all the things and engage our senses in Krishna consciousness or in Krishna? So sometimes it's very difficult and we forget. So what to do with this?
I'm sorry, Raki. I sort of understand your question, but in another sense, I don't.
I mean, how to engage our senses in Krishna by doing our prescribed duties in Grihastha ashram, as we have lot of things to do,
Hmm.
and we have joint family, and we have to sit together, talk together. Maybe it's nonsense. So how to remember that time always in Krishna? Means 24/7. How to remember this?
Uh, as they say, where there's a will, there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. Somehow or other. I can't tell you about your details of your own life because it's your private life. And secondly, I don't know these details. And everybody has a different context, different situation. The principle that you're bringing up is that there's so many duties
Yes.
and so little time. And so how do we put our Krishna consciousness in the middle of this chaotic, non-devotional, but duty-bound context, right? Somehow or other. Maybe someone can mute themselves because there's some background feedback. Oh yeah, it was coming from you. You somehow or other, like whether, you have to have faith that Krishna will help you if you really want to. Krishna will give you. I'm sorry to quote Bhagavad. I mean, I know I don't feel guilty about quoting Bhagavad Gita. We should feel happy to quote Bhagavad Gita. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam what is it? Yenamam upayantite. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the buddhi, I give the intelligence by which they can come to me. So why would Krishna not reciprocate with you? If you pray to Krishna, my Lord, I don't know how to find time to chant your holy name. I have this duty and that duty, and this person is asking this, and I have to do this for that person, and then by this time it's this. Yeah. You explain your situation to Krishna. Help me so I can serve you better and spend more time connecting with you, communing with you. You should have faith that Krishna will give you that intelligence to carve out some time somehow or other during your day. Specifically, I don't dare answer because every case is individual, and it's really a individual case by case scenario. But I can say on principle, why would Krishna is your best friend? He wants you to love him and serve him and think of him all the time. He's God Almighty. He gives you intelligence by which you can come to him. So if you really ask him to help you find that time to serve him better, you should have confidence that he will. You don't look very convinced.
It's like a general question, because in our Asian countries there are a lot of things to do with household women. So it was a general question, not a personal question. So I was just asking that it's like
No,
it's
but
kind of difficult
it's not
because
like Western women have all the time they want during the day too, I mean, everybody's busy. West, East, Asian, Western, and Maya is also always there with everyone. If we think we have no time for Krishna consciousness, in a way, we could say that's Maya. And Maya is there to influence everybody, whether they're in Asian bodies or Western bodies. So, you have to believe that no matter what situation you're in, you can somehow or other find time to serve Krishna.
Krishna, if I may
Bimal
add,
Prasad.
if I may add to that question, maybe that will, like broaden the scope of that response. Is it like by any chance, practicing Krishna consciousness is any easier in West than in the East? What's your experience?
I don't think so. Kali Yuga is Kali Yuga everywhere. Kali Yuga is influencing, Kali is influencing everywhere. There's not a 1 square meter on this planet which is not under the nefarious influence of Kali. And it may take slightly different shapes in different parts of the world, but at the end of the day, everybody is a victim of Kali. Everyone is a victim of their senses. Everybody is a victim of their lust and their anger and their greed. Everybody's a victim of corrupt, in some cases, very demoniac political leaders. We're in this. We're praenal payasabya kalavas minyugejanas manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya upadritaha. In at the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, it's very clearly mentioned how in this age of Kali, men and women are, misguided, unfortunate, lazy, and above all, always disturbed. And the verse doesn't say, except for Western people, or except for, Pakistanis, or except for, Bangladeshis. Everybody, we're in the same basket. And the same remedy is given to all of us also. Somehow live in Sattva Guna, try to follow these 4 regs the best we can, and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We'll go with one last question, and then we'll do a 2-minute kirtan, and we'll stop because we're already 1 minute over time. So if Kanai Krishna Prabhu, if it's not too much of a complicated question, and if you Prabhus don't mind, we'll just quickly 1 or 2 minutes on that, and then we'll do 2 minutes of kirtan, and we'll stop by 10:36. No? Kanai Krishna, you wanted to say something?
No, thank you.
Okay. So then let's finish because, I respect your time and it's late for you. So we'll, and Barka, maybe you can ask that question next time. You have a question, Barka? Okay, go ahead.
So, okay, I can ask tomorrow, I guess. Oh, I mean, next session.
Well, since you're at it.
Uh, it's actually a short question, just like we were discussing Grasta and Gram, maybe. It's like a family who engages in Krishna consciousness and a family who doesn't engage in Krishna consciousness. What about those families who are like half-half, 50-50? Just like the first generation, the parents were in Krishna consciousness, but they cannot, like their children cannot continue. In which category they lie in?
The family or the parents or the children?
The family, like.
I guess it's a 50-50 category, like you say. Okay. Ultimately, it's not. Yeah, it's like, or some members of the family are grihastas, some members are grihamedis. Ultimately, it's individuals, isn't it, who are either one. It's, and if everybody in the family is one particular, then you could say the whole family is that. But like you say, if there's some members doing bhakti and others rejecting bhakti, then it's a mix. It's a mixed bag. All right, Prabhus, let's just do a couple of Maha mantras, and then you Prabhus will go take rest. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So if everyone's muted, just so the echo, and I'll just share a picture of our Lord, of the divine couple. We're very lucky, to believe that Radha and Krishna is the Supreme Lord and his internal potency. This is on the ceiling of the Ujjain temple, the temple that Bhakti Charumarj established. Beautifully painted by some Russian devotee, actually. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Last one. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, thank you very much for the opportunity to get purified, and we did some nice discussion, and we'll continue in a few days. And we'll continue in a few days.
Jai. All glories to Chandrasekhar Acharya Guru.
All glories to
Chandrasekhar
Srila
Acharya Guru.
Prabhupada.
Jai Guru.
Haribo, everyone. Take care.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.